Director for the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We also do have refreshments behind in this back window here, outside. We want to grab some refreshments to our Lord.
John, how you doing? Welcome in.
We have here too as well our Albuquerque Police Department, Chief Reviewer.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah,
I cannot hear you. I mean, I can also go in the front, but.
No, it was a radio or something.
We have our Albuquerque Police Department Chief Medina here, our moderator for the next Black Leadership Council, Captain McGill, will have Major General from the National Guard, Mr. Aguilar, coming in, our Chief of Staff, Mr. Mike Hernandez here as well. So we'll start momentarily. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, my name is Saida. I'll be your Spanish interpreter. I'll be in the corner back there. If anybody needs Spanish interpretation, please feel free to look me or any of the staff members. And you're joining us on the back.
Too loud.
What are you? How you doing? Calm chaos. Welcome in.
Did you? I didn't get no reports back, but then I have to come by today. Thank you.
They threw some propaganda thing from out of county.
Oh, of course they did. They were, you know, we only had 2 last time. You sit down, good to sit down here, you know, I'm good sitting Since they were counting how many people came from actually the neighborhood. I had to bring some. It's fun today.
Yeah, Rudy, I saw the article on that, Rudy. I saw the article on that. Allegedly, what happened on that one, Rudy, was that the officer shot the dog. Apparently the officer shot his own dog for some reason. Right, Rudy, right.
Are you almost there? Okay, we're all going in the back where the ones there. Okay, we'll be in
Back from Las Vegas.
Oh, did you see the last one? Right into
Yeah, like Travis family, KWT as well as KOB, both did articles on it. Rishi, how you doing? Welcome in. No, John, no. Not at all, John. Not at all. Hey, Ghost, how you doing? Welcome back. Pretty much, Ghost. Pretty much.
Thank you everyone for showing up for our third annual,
Third annual. This guy can't speak.
Sorry, our third town hall. As we're here to discuss the National Guard's presence within the city of Albuquerque, here to share space with you all and have a good, respectful and dialogue here. As I shared before, my name is Dylan Shehay, Deputy Director for the Office of Equity and Inclusion for the city of Albuquerque. And I'll turn things over to our moderator from the New Mexico Legislative Council, Captain McGill.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here at this third meeting. The numbers have gotten bigger, and that's good. For us to have a bunch of people in the room to be able to have real communication.
A larger audience
George
this time.
Marshall said that the problem with communication is the illusion that it has occurred. Usually we are talking at each other instead of talking to each other, talking about each other instead of understanding that what we are here to do is not talk about people, but we're talking about
Nice,
problems.
Ghost, nice.
And the future feels, far away, and the past has been troubling. All of us have made mistakes, some really, really serious, on every single side of this issue. And what we're doing today is to figure out how we deal with the messiness of the present and understanding that the ability to shape the future is ours. It belongs to us, all of us in this room, from every vantage. And if you've been here for the last 2 town halls that we had, they've been contentious, passions, raging high. And many people not showing up as their best self because they're so angry about, I need you to hear me. I need for there to be communication. And yesterday, something really transformative happened after the meeting that we had on Tuesday, where you might have left thinking, we'll never get to a solution. My name is Catherine McGill, as Dylan mentioned, and my whole purpose for being here is that as a community, we would focus on solutions. Even when we make mistakes, that the future, shaping the future, tomorrow, the next minute, is our choice. And I have 2 of the people who were going at it on Tuesday. And I talked to both of them on Wednesday. Broke bread with both of them on Wednesday. And both of them have tremendous amounts of courage, and we wanted to start this session today with a grounding from our fellow members of the community. And so I want to start with Justin Allen, who would like to speak, and then we'll have Susan Lunsford, who would also like to speak, and then we'll go on with our town hall for today. Justin.
Hello, everybody. First and foremost, I want to apologize to my community for the way I showed up for you all. That's not the way I want to represent this community that I care about. My name is Justin Allen. I grew up in the South Valley. I reside in the International District. I faced housing instability and began using substances by the age of 13. By the time I was 15, I had my first felony of this and a serious drug addict. I spent all my 20s and 30s incarcerated. While I was incarcerated, I became a peer educator doing conflict resolution behind the walls. This experience has led me to the work I do in the community, supporting the most vulnerable community members. I'm here to offer some grounding because respect goes both ways. Respect goes both ways. The last 2 times I attended, I repaid disrespect with disrespect. That's not how I want to show up for my community. That's not how I become the change I want to see.
Thank you.
So I want to apologize for repaying harm with harm because my language, because that's how disrespect and even violence is perpetuated. After attending these town halls, one thing is painfully clear. APD and the National Guard will never earn the trust or respect of our community while they continue to dehumanize us through language. Again and again, we heard phrases like drug addicts and criminals, language that strips people of their humanity and reduces them to their struggles or worst mistakes. When institutions speak this way, they reveal that they don't see us as people. And you cannot claim to help somebody if you don't recognize their humanity. Healing in public safety began with how we speak. Words shape perception, perception drives policy, behavior, and care. Using person-first language, saying to a person who committed a violent act instead of a murderer, or a person living with substance use disorder instead of addict, signals a willingness to understand and not condemn. It's a way of saying you're more than what's happened to you, and you're more than what you've done. When we reduce people to labels, we invite punishment. When we use language rooted in dignity, we invite healing. This principle applies across the board, whether we're talking about people surviving homelessness, criminalization, incarceration, substance use, or migration. If we truly care about public safety, we must start by practicing in our everyday language, because how we speak is how we show up for each other. Let's speak life, let's speak dignity, and let's commit to the practice of recognizing humanity. It's gonna take all of us to, as the chief said in the city hall, respect goes both ways. You know, we're constantly hearing criminal convict, addict, we have to put it.
So Justin said, and thank you for that, give him a hand. That we use person first language, and not, for instance, because I think this is a real example of why person first language is important. As a black woman, African American, people refer to my ancestors as slaves. My ancestors were not slaves, they were enslaved. So person first language gives individual dignity. It's a part of our just way of thinking. We're gonna use these terms that are often used. And Ms. Lewis sitting next to me,
Exactly, John,
I consider her to be my sister. And I had to sit her down last Tuesday because she was online. And also saying things like drug addict, which no one wants to hear. And we want to do better in that regard so that, as George Bernard Shaw said, we can have real communication, authentic communication. That's our goal tonight. So I want to give Sue an opportunity to speak, and then we'll get on with our town hall.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sue. I moved here from Oklahoma, from the state of Oklahoma. I'm a Native American. I'm Cheyenne. And Oklahoma is not very nice to us Native Americans. My kids got harassed all the time. They were put in jail for unknown reasons. My whole family has been harassed since the 1800s. So I know what it feels like to always feel like somebody's watching you. So I've lived in Albuquerque almost 25 years now. I call this my home. I go visit Oklahoma, but this is my home because it has a lot of Native Americans, it has a lot of culture, art. I love that. I have a voice. I was able to get educated in the state of New Mexico.
Exactly,
So
John, exactly.
I love this state. I call this my home state now. I was a single mother that moved here with my children, hoping my boys would have a better life. But my child fell into medical health care, and he got it. I'm not as woke as everybody in here, and I come from a different era, so sometimes my words are not as polite and as clean as everybody wants me to be.
Yeah,
But my son does have an addiction.
fuck this woke bullshit.
He is incarcerated. This is his third time around being incarcerated. I pray every time he comes out that he's gonna have a better life, that he's gonna know better. So I'm affected by all of this too. I've had people crawl in my windows. I've had my whole house stolen. I've invited people to my house. Okay. So let me get back on track. So I'm raising my grandson now because of the parents. I'm in a sheltered house. My son doesn't
Right,
know
John,
why I
right, exactly.
because of this problem. Okay? I can't even send my son to the school in my district because of the problems out here. But anyway, we have some hard moments with the police. I pray a lot.
George,
believe it or not. I pray that my son's okay. I pray that we have understanding in our communities. But I do go out and beat these streets. The other night when we left here, I went to Wisconsin. I went down Wisconsin. It was very sad, very sad. I went down it again today. I drive the streets every day, hoping that we can help somebody, hoping somebody reaches out and say, I want to be helped. I haven't come across that person yet. I've been feeding a dog for almost 3 years now, trying to get the couples to realize they need help. They don't want, they don't want it. I give them stuff all the time. So, anyway, I just wanna say, I'm very sorry, that is not me, that is not my nature. Cheyenne people are not like that, we're peaceful people. But my heart is broke right now. And when your heart is broke, sometimes you say stuff out of your mouth you don't mean. And I'm very sorry if I affected anybody, if I made somebody feel bad about themselves, because I sure didn't want to do that. I want to uplift this community just as much as everybody else. But the calling of names, the disrespect is hard for me to accept. So I just want to tell you I'm sorry. I'm open for questions. You can ask me anything. I'm an open book. And, you know, I just want this, everybody to help each other. I don't want anybody at each other's throats, you know, so.
Thank you.
you.
So I feel like it was really important to understand that we can disagree without being disrespectful. And when we talk about person first and mutual respect, then it does come from both sides. So what I ask tonight is that we know outbursts. I will do my best to raise your hand, that I will call on you, I will try to acknowledge you and tell you that I saw you, and you can lower your hand. So it's not an attempt to control the legitimate statements that all of us need to make about what's happening with our governance. What it is an ability for us to show that we can have civil discourse, that we can disagree without
This is
being
about the National
disagreeable.
Guard.
We can ask questions, we can expect answers, and ultimately we can hold those individuals who are making mistakes accountable
Got the National Guard.
for doing what they said they were
Got the
going
National
to
Guard
do
helping out.
in the way they said they were going to do it. Or if a change needs to be
This
made,
other intro shit.
that we would be, that whatever agreement would be renegotiated before the deadline is passed. So what we hope tonight is that we have true, authentic dialogue and communication. I'll do my best to be aware of everybody who needs to speak in the room, and I ask that you be respectful of this space. I want to invite up to stand now to Chief Harold Medina and Major General Aguilar from the National Guard. Last time, we had some questions. Community, you asked for some answers about a couple of things, and we hope to go deeper into those questions. And if you have additional questions today, we're happy to take questions.
I just want to thank everybody for being here this evening. Thanks for the opportunity for us to discuss a little bit about how and what our vision is with the Mexican National Guard. You know, the last few years, you know, some things that really important is I talked about it.
Hey, Dr. Straits, how you doing?
I know law enforcement isn't the solution to a lot of the problems that are facing this community at times. I know that education.
Oh, see, I know. Welcome in.
I know that poverty is at the root. And unfortunately, I don't control every single one of those aspects. I know, and I hope that all of us here can be advocates. When you look at a lot of the individuals who are suffering from being unhoused, there's two root causes: mental health and substance abuse. And we have to work together. And we have to make sure that we build the processes that help these individuals conquer what they're going through and get the help that they need. And that's ultimately what's going to make the community better. And we have a long road ahead. I think that's why it's so important that we work together. But as we talk about what we're going to be doing and working with the National Guard within Albuquerque, I just want to point out the three main points of what they're going to be doing with us and clarify that they're not here for an enforcement purpose.
Right, Chad's family, right.
One of the biggest tools we've developed with Albuquerque Police Department is the philosophy of utilizing professional staff and utilizing the right tools for the right situation. And I think Mayor Keller has done a great job with the development of ACS. And the reason I support ACS so much is the wonderful work that they do is the first week of
ATF should be a convenience store. The ATF should not be a government agency. It should be a convenience store.
And given the road that we've traveled with the history of Albuquerque Police Department, I think that's a monumental task. But how did we do that? Because we got the right people into the right situations. And not every situation always requires a uniform, a badge, a gun, authority. Sometimes situations just necessitate somebody who could listen and hear somebody to help them with what they're struggling with. And that is kind of where we ended up with the National Guard, is it gives us the ability to bring another layer of responsibility.
Right, John, right.
Where they could assist us to clear our officers, take calls that are urgent, keep them on law enforcement related calls, and ensure that the individual who's walking the street is from the National Guard, and there to simply walk the streets so people don't access the area that can be dangerous to them. Or when there's a traffic accident and we have to block 2 lanes of traffic, that the National Guard can assist our officers into going into service. I'll be the first to admit, Albuquerque Police Department by no means is it perfect. But if you reflect back where we were 10 years ago, I think we could see a lot of
Joko, how you
change.
doing?
I've watched the videos. I say over and over, today's officers have much more patience, much more empathy, and much more understanding for the
Hey, son, how
community
do
than 10 years ago. They're better
The
off.
shoes think I'll go, it's true.
If you don't follow us, you'd probably be shocked that a lot of retired officers do not like the direction we've gone. Because we've installed the idea that the truth was dignity and respect. So the National Guard is going to do 3 things for us. They're going to assist us in ensuring that we can clear up officers for priority calls for service, and they have 0 law enforcement abilities. They're going to be no different than the light blue shirts that our police service agents wear. Number 2, when an individual is taken into custody, they're taken downtown, officers are stuck there processing them. Sometimes for hours, they need to take every piece of property, make sure it's tagged in, put in the proper place, and they need to hand this person off and then wait for medical. The National Guard is going to help us process this property, ensure people's property is respected.
Hey, cat,
The
true.
last thing they're going to do is, we have advanced as a department. Albuquerque Police Department is, without a doubt, one of the most technological advanced departments in this country. We have a new drone program. We have restrictions, we have rules on how we utilize our drones.
The right
But the
goes,
simple
right?
matter is, the more intelligence our officers have going into a situation, the more we can possibly avoid the use of force or
Definitely.
because our officers can possibly plan for what's occurring. The whole goal is to give our officers information and get information to our officers for law enforcement purposes so they can better respond and hopefully can take dangerous situations, de-escalate them, take individuals into custody when we have to. So when the general called me and asked how we could assist, we did. We had a long list of things that we hoped they could assist us with. We narrowed it down to these 3 things. If we're capable of increasing in the future, we will, but we're gonna take this slow, we're gonna crawl. And after we crawl a while and see how they work and we make the changes that we know we're gonna have to make, because every program requires changes, we're gonna see if we can walk. And if we could plug them into doing a little more tasks to help us manage the loaded calls coming in,
Sorry, Chad.
all the better for us.
Klutz. Sorry, Chad.
And we could take another step. If the process isn't working, we would generally look at each other and we're gonna say we gave it our best. But I don't believe that we should be so close-minded that we're not willing to try something new. That's what has helped us succeed over the course of the last 6 years. And if you think about it, you look at homicides, for example, in the city of Albuquerque. 5 years ago, when I took over the chief, you had a 50% chance of getting away with the homicide. That means
Welcome in, Kevin.
50%
Welcome in.
of the
Good to see you.
families do not have closure or sense of justice. We're now going on 3 years where we've been able to deliver justice to families at a above 90% rate on homicides. We are always going to have to learn to evolve with the times. That's where our PD got in trouble in the past. We're sitting here today because we want to hear what concerns are, and we want to give information on the due care we're doing with the project that we're implementing. And with that, I'll close and say thank you for having us here this evening.
Thank you, Chief. And, we'll have a remark to make this.
Good evening, everybody. Chief, thank you. Thank you all for coming here today. I just want to personally thank the two folks that spoke earlier. I greatly appreciate it. I know it was difficult to come up and say those words, but I really appreciate the fact that you both did. I don't see the gentleman. I want to thank you for that. And I can tell you that I think the first meeting we had microphones, and we don't have it here, but I was reflecting on a couple of nights ago, and I got loud, mostly because I was thinking I wanted to make sure that the folks in the back could hear when I was answering it. So if I get that way, know that I'm just trying to project my voice. I'm not typically very animated, but I'll keep my comments fairly short, because I think most of you have been to one of the meetings. So the only thing I'll share with you is this. And the Guard is a community-based organization. It is the one thing that differentiates us from the rest of the Department of Defense. We work for the governor. Almost everybody that is in the Guard is a New Mexican. Almost everybody in this mission, about half live in the Albuquerque area. About a little under 40 graduated from local high schools. And I tell you all those things because I want you to know that Albuquerque's our home. We care about it. So we had an opportunity to have a discussion about how we can help the Albuquerque Police Department. We sat and talked through what the best methodology would be for doing that. And so I thank the chief because we had lots of dialogue and discussion. I think the 3 tasks that we settled on are the right tasks to begin with. We don't know if they'll change or not. I don't want to make it sound like we've decided that something else is coming, because we haven't. And then I think the other thing that I want everyone to know, because I get this sense that in a lot of ways there's this image of a bunch of guardsmen all over the streets, and it's just not going to be that way. About half of the guardsmen that we have on the mission will be assigned to a few area commands. But when you factor in 3 shifts, 7 days a week, getting them the opportunity to have days off like everybody else, it really amounts to about maybe 6 to 10 at the high end that are working field operations at any given moment across multiple areas. And so, at a larger scene, you may see area commands pull all the guardsmen in. At a homicide scene that we know may take 8, 9, 10 hours, or a SWAT call out. And so you may see a few more, but generally you won't see a whole lot more than that. And so it's not an overwhelming presence. We're not going to patrol the streets, or we're not going to patrol Central or your community. And I hope that when this is over, at the very least, that you'll see that at least the National Guard involvement, doesn't change how you feel about the Guard, because I'll tell you that we take great pride in helping our community and becoming everything that the community needs us to be. Substitute teaching, fires, floods, snowstorms, whatever those things are, that when the community has a need, we're there to help support you. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
it's really important that we get out the fact that we want to be very transparent about this. Every National Guard member will have the same camera following the same policy as all of the police department follows. Every National Guard individual will be investigated for any possible misconduct by our internal affairs, intelligence standards of Albuquerque Police Department, final.
Oh no, Santiago, I know. It's called Posse Comitatus.
So we have put a lot of safeguards.
Neither of these dipshits care about Posse Comitatus. So
Following the same protocol, and that things are consistent with how things are carried out.
And everyone will look like this. I mean, not like this, because maybe only I do. But the same uniform.
yeah, so this is the uniform that the guardsmen were
The
wearing.
change with all the equipment comes in is there'll be a carrier vest that eventually will come in, so that it's easier to mount the cameras and equipment. But the badging that you see, will be the same. The name tapes will be on the outside versus what's embroidered on your shirt. But generally speaking, they will look like this.
Thank you, Mr. General. And one of the things that we asked, last time was that we have uniform hearings here, so thank you. Bring it so people can, ask more questions about that. We also talked about, ICE involvement, and we talked about the resolution that, prohibits the police officers from, working with ICE. It's R18-7. We invite everyone to get it online. We
That's a good
feel
question,
that
Fredo.
Albuquerque is an immigrant-friendly city, and that we have been reaffirming our desire to remain so. So that information is out there, and hope that you will take advantage of those opportunities to read the information that's out there. So with that, I'll start to take questions. I see, thank you, I see your hands. I saw a hand in the far back of the room, and then you two. Go ahead.
All right. My first question is, was Albuquerque declared a state of emergency, and is that what activated the National Guard?
And your question is to either Major General or Chief?
Well, both actually.
When you look at our crime statistics, we have made great progress. But in 2014, the city of Albuquerque had 49 homicides, or 30 homicides. Somewhere around there, quote me on the exact number. By 2017, it had risen to somewhere around in the 70s. It topped out at 124 killers. We topped out at about 124 about 3 years ago. We had 2 years of decline. Last year, we still were in the 80s for homicides. That's almost double from 2013. So although we made progress, we still feel there is an enormous amount of violent crime that, coupled with the fact that
That didn't answer the question though.
There's a lot of crime, period. There's too much crime. I live right here. Look, read that list.
That wasn't the question though.
No, not the question. There's too much crime.
If it,
Hey,
there's certain laws in place.
The people complain about crime, but when they bring National Guard, they get all upset for what?
And to continue on, sir, I think that, so the request from the Albuquerque Police Department, the governor used her authority to declare an emergency. It is what allows us to use the guard in the capacity that it's being used in, and the resources that are being utilized, in order to come out and pay for salary.
Okay, so just
What I want to do is like say that they can have a follow-up question. One.
Oh, sorry.
Give everyone the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to make every attempt to give people an opportunity.
Yeah, she
to
was
ask
next.
questions. So go ahead with your follow-up. You
Well,
get a follow-up?
yeah, I just want to verify what you said, that Governor Grisham, she has officially declared Albuquerque as an emergency that officially activated you guys. That was the question.
That is correct, and the emergency order is posted on the website, you can read.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
I've been thinking about this quite a bit, okay? That why were we just immediately so worried about the National Guard now? And okay, there were a lot of missed balls and so on in the whole rollout. But then eventually I realized, because at bottom, the city's argumentation was, reasoning was, we need the Guard to be here to free up APD bodies. And you reiterated that again tonight. So that makes sense. I mean, if you now feel, okay, you've now really got to tackle this situation and come to a solution and so on, you might need more bodies. We don't have enough uniformed officers.
Yeah, the question came from
As you
Creole,
well know,
actually.
I work on the street. As you well know, I am vehemently against all the displacements that are going on, because they are to no effect.
Thank you
They
for looking that up,
bring
John.
nothing to the table. They just displace people, traumatize people, and some of those folks are now so traumatized they'll never be able to come in successfully. And at each of these displacements, and I heard last night the stat, which I've not verified, but I can see that it's sort of in that ballpark of 1,000 displacements a month. And just here along Central in the International District, I mean, the people are just being chased the whole time. At each displacement, there are at least 2 police officers. So I'm thinking, if that is not, in any case, not bringing anything, and I can guarantee you, and many people in this room would be able to verify that, it does not bring anything. There is no goal in sight. If you were to take those officers away from all the displacements, then you would have enough people.
Thank you.
I've got too much time, actually. Thank you, I think you're gonna go through.
I'm encouraged by Chief Medina's remarks, about the Department of Community Safety and, the Gateway Center and things like that, which shows that the city is aware of the kind of structural problems in our society, poverty and everything like that. Taking a lot of those kind of non-criminal calls away from the police, like they should be, cops are not social workers or mental health professionals, they're not supposed to be. I don't think we have to be brainers to call each other names to be on the shout. We just have to clearly state the facts. That, services like rent control or massive availability of public housing have been proven to work in many places in many different times. And, we have those things in this country. The only reason we don't now is because there's 5 billionaires. There were no billionaires in America until the 1980s. Now we have a handful of people who are richer than God and for this kind of service. And we've seen that, the poverty and homelessness actually increases the social supplies that exist everywhere in our society. So it's always been harder on African Americans, harder on indigenous people, everything like that. Chief Medina, I've already been members of the working class, as are the vast majority of people in our community. It's like 99%. There are not too many mansions around here. So you guys think it's better for all public officials to advocate for the kind of robust services that will address these root causes?
Hit that like, everybody. Hit that like.
Even when my parents were not problems that exist today, don't you think it'd be better to advocate for those kind of real solutions to problems than engage in an act of political theater that will cost billions, do nothing to solve the real root causes of these problems, and just further drive apart communities from our law enforcement officers and our national guard, who are also just members of the working class and the rest of the Alliance of Albuquerque.
Thank you for looking that up, Creole. Thank you for looking that up.
I agree with you. You follow the Albuquerque Police Department. You follow what the mayor's trying to do over the past several years. There's an initiative the mayor put forward 5 years ago, right, MCI, Metro Crime Initiative. And every year I've advocated, hoping, and you look at back during my testimony.
Yeah, John, that's what they're saying over on Tuesday. Well, back on Tuesday, it was at 6 months.
Abilities to get people out. makers on it. We're not the decision makers. There has to be change. And, you know what?
I believe there is here in Albuquerque, there's a mayor election coming up. I believe so.
Find some middle ground and work together to come up with solutions. And they're never gonna say one side is right, one side is wrong. We're gonna say that the right answer is somewhere in the middle. But at times, we're unable to come and compromise just because it becomes a red line to prove. And that's the reality. And we, as the people, need to demand more to ensure that we get the resources we need. I don't want to dispatch officers to a lot of the calls we have. But the simple fact is, until we created ACS, there was no other option. I was a 22-year-old officer. I got dispatched to assist a mother with her 9-year-old child. At William thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I was not in a relationship. I had 0 kids. I had 0 parenting skills. We had some classroom discussions on how to deal with situations. I was not the right tool for the situation. So we need to ensure that we continue to develop programs, continue to fund programs. But every year, for the past 3 years, go back and look at city council meetings and see how many times people have tried to fund.
Oh, for sure, Ghost, for sure.
How many times people try
Oh, I will grab it. I will,
to
for
get
sure.
rid of ACS, which is nationally, people look at it and we're one of the most respected communities.
Grab it. I definitely looking for sure.
There's just this big kernel of that we can't let this succeed because it's somebody else's idea. And we have to stop that thinking, and we have to work as a community and stick to what works right and not let policy decisions and politics get in the way. Because
This shit's
ACS is a big answer for the problem we're seeing. But every year, ACS is fighting for its budget.
Can I just add really quickly? Thank you. I don't disagree with you. Your point is valid. I think there's also the other component of it. It's been a while since I was in law enforcement. The other component of this, and it's not, targeted at people in this community. There is a criminal enterprise that begins south of the border that is exploiting our folks that are unhoused, our folks that have mental health issues, and are profiting and grooming and tempting our youth into crime. That also has to be addressed. It's that criminal aspect to it. And I think there's both. And I think there's space for both. And so in the other meetings I've said that, I think there's opportunities for us to look at what else should we be doing that complements all those efforts, because it's all of those things that I think can have the best impact in how this community is in its city.
Hi, my name is Donovan. I'm with the Party for Social Liberation. We've been hearing a lot of community pushback already about this deployment. We heard that from the International District Custody Communities Coalition, that was cited in the New York Times article. I'm wondering, why are these town halls happening only now, after the community has sort of overwhelmingly pushed back on this deployment? Why wasn't the community consulted beforehand? And this seems to be a running theme of this, a lack of community power control.
Ghost, KWT7 was here on Tuesday.
It sounds like the decision to end this deployment will come when both of you and the governor decide that it's been effective or has run its course. But really, the community should be the primary decision maker in this. Shouldn't you start to listen to the community just now, better late than never?
Why do you keep getting it from my camera, dumb fuck?
One of the most difficult aspects about being chief is the balance.
Fucking asshole.
Today in this room, I sit, and there's probably a split that some support the National Guard, some people don't. I go through this every day. I hear and I have to make decisions that in today's society, a upsets 49% of the population of the people happy. There may be upset 43 happy, and 14 don't have any community waiting. We made a decision in retrospect. We could have spoken to the community about this, but we made a decision. In the future, we probably would handle this a little bit differently, but we're here now, trying to ensure that the public knows what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm only saying.
Fucking dumb fuck, stand still.
And I apologize for that, if we do acknowledge some individuals, but the balance that I have to do each and every day is, I'm in the community every single day. Every day, I walk Albuquerque street, I go to eat, I go to talk. There are a lot of people who do support this initiative. And there are a lot of people who respect that we're trying something different. So it's a lot of times relevant to who we are surrounded with. And I'll give an example. Years ago, there was a lot of in this state who was greatly opposed to
True,
violence.
true.
When everybody else had already embraced body control. And I used to tell all my counterparts, you can't just speak to law enforcement officials, officers, because they're not at the place where they're always supported. Today, the lot vastly different than 10 years ago. Most cops love their cameras because it gets them out of more trouble than it gets them into trouble. But this individual only listens to those around him and not to the community as a whole. And I'm telling you, just as it is with dealing with unhoused situations, that people are upset that we're taking enforcement activities on.
That's not the sheriff.
There are businesses all
That's the
down
police
state
chief,
that
not the
if
sheriff.
you sat and had a discussion with them, they will explain to you
The sheriff, Sheriff John Allen is not here.
and their business.
That's Chief Medina, of the
Their
Albuquerque
ability to
Police.
survive. As to why they want us to assist them in taking actions. And I think Catherine started today's meeting off, and I can't wait, because there's going to be text after this to say, this is one of the best starts to the meeting ever.
Dude, stand
Because they're all
still.
put us in place in a way, and it has to remind us, we have to have respect for other people's
Dumb
points.
fuck.
And with that comment, I want you to think about having to sit in my seat and hearing from one side what is wanted and hearing from another side what is wanted. The number one thing I hear from citizens is, Chief, I'd never want your job because people are never gonna be happy. One side, one society is never gonna be happy. That you have to make.
I agree, Creole. I agree, yes.
We will roll this out differently. I take ownership for that. I own that. And in general, if you ever do something in the future, there'll be great discussions. We have learned from this. But I hope in the end, we can move forward.
Oh, I know, Senor, I know.
Providing and realize that this is done with a good heart in order to try to make Albuquerque better.
Can't fucking.
I want to ask a question and follow up. Sir, I see you in the back.
Well, we need to talk about the crime is why we're here. We're not talking about the crime at all. We're not talking about any of the crime. We live right here with crime every day. People getting shot, our mailman got beat up, they started my fence on fire. They shot people left and right, they shot a guy right here on Tennessee.
Yes, Ghost,
They shot
yes.
another one here on Grand. We had a lockdown at La Mesa the other day.
All right, later, John.
We
Thank you for
got
hanging
people
out.
getting shot and stabbed and killed all around. They beat up a hooker in front of my house a while back. Right in front of my house.
Don't use that language, man. Don't say that.
Person,
Yeah,
first
but
language.
we gotta talk
language.
about the crime.
Person first language.
Yeah,
If you
we
just
gotta
have
talk
one
about the crime
conversation,
instead of
one
all this
conversation,
theory.
And I'm gonna moderate
Yes,
it,
that's right.
and what I'm asking for, so I can stay sure and have communication and be peace. So, you know, for everybody, there's one conversation. We wanna have communication, we wanna get your questions answered. If you make a long statement that is not a question, then there's nothing for either the chief or the major general to respond to. So I would ask that you make a question and that they can respond to. and I know that they will respond, and we request that if you didn't get your question answered, you may make a follow-up question as you may. Go ahead.
Kathy, I just want to push back just really quick on what you just said. Wait, no, hold on. Some people need to make statements to them so that they can hear the information. Everybody's not here to ask a question. We're here also to give information. So limiting the audience to only being able to ask one question with no follow-up is not what a town hall is. We are the community who is also here to give them the information that they need so that they can make informed decisions about the way they interact with us.
And this is what I would say, you know, if you have a question or a statement that you made, what I said was, and I'll repeat, what I said was, that you may make a question and a follow-up question, but I desire for everyone here to have an opportunity to be heard. You certainly may make a statement. You know, what we hope is that you have factually correct information and that you understand that there's only so many of us who can make those statements in the room. So my job is to make sure that everyone gets a chance to talk to me. Your follow-up.
Thank you. The chief, you just asked me to imagine myself in your seat. You know, if I was in your seat, I would say that, you know, the apology that we just heard is nice, but apologies require action as well as just the words themselves. And so I think you do have an opportunity to listen to the community, listen to the pushback you're hearing. You mentioned that, you know, it's maybe a 50-50 split in the room. I actually don't agree with that. I'm hearing a lot more opposition to this in this room and in the streets than I am in favor of this deployment. It sounds like the language that you're using sounds like you're saying that this deployment is a done deal. Is that the case? Or is there room for the community to say, no, we don't want this, let's roll this back, this was a mistake, we're sorry?
This is gonna
Check the box.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn around and hopefully raise some questions. Raise one question that mostly address. So I hope you don't mind. My name is Patricia, I'm the state representative. And I came here because I was going to come on Tuesday. And I'm extremely fearful. I say this because I live and represent a district in far southwest quadrant of Albuquerque. It's not very much different than this district. It's a district that is highly immigrant, so they're hiding. Everybody's hiding in my neighborhood and in my communities because they fear ICE, they fear the agency law enforcement and ICE. They fear going out to their work. They don't, you know, they wear their uniforms, McDonald's, whatever it is, in order to mask who they really are. They work 2 or 3 jobs. So, Chief, I respect your comments, Major General, your comments. Facilitating everybody being here.
Right, so y'all know, right?
To answer your question, it is absolutely a done deal because it was the governor's call. There are many of us that would have done things very differently, as you articulated. We would have begun with discussions such as these to kind of gauge and include the community in helping us resolve the problems. My view is that if we were to house individuals, offer affordable housing, have good jobs, good paying jobs, benefits, people wouldn't have to be working 2 and 3 jobs, would have quality of living. If we address the whole cycle of poverty as the root cause,
Get the
there's
fuck out with
another
that
root
dumb
cause,
shit.
and it actually is the main root cause
and that is that it's poverty. And there's proportion
Fucking
to
stupid
80%
ass
of
communist.
our population. The state of New Mexico is the poorest state in the nation. What does that tell you? We're the most undereducated state in the nation. What does that tell you? Is it the fault of the individual? No.
Yes.
And that's what would have come out of the community discussion. Crime is not the fault of the individual. Crime is a systemic issue. It's caused by being in a constant cycle of poverty and not having access to equal opportunity, to any type of opportunity. So what we're doing is we're responding and reacting to individuals.
not a babysitter.
Of course, I agree, Major General, that there is that, what did you call it?
Criminal enterprise.
The criminal enterprise. I understand that, but that's also fueled by the billionaires, fueled by the inequalities and inequities and access to the unequal economy. That's what it's fueled by. So there's a need to push drugs
This is all
and
communist
to
shit.
push bad elements into our communities. But again, the problem is not the individual and who we're focusing on are individuals rather than dealing with the systemic issues that lead to the criminalization of our communities. We don't want the criminalization of our communities to continue. When my son, I urged my son to move away from Albuquerque when he was going to the University of New Mexico in 2013 when we were having, and leading up to 2015, 2016 when we had all those outrageous attacks on our targeting our young men of color. I urged him, he's darker than I am, he's targeted and profiled as one of these criminal elements. He hung out in the streets with his friends. His biggest joy was to get out of class at UNM and then go hang out with the guys. I said, please don't come to the house. I'll cook whatever you want to cook. Stay here. I'll give you whatever games you want to play. But stay here. Don't go out in the streets because that one year that the GOJ was finally called in, out of the 19 killings, I don't know if you all remember, random shootings by the police in this community, 14 of which were Latino men. Latino men of color. 14 of
$500 bounty. Don't forget the $500 bounty.
14 of the 19, let that digest. My son could have been one of those. I am the proud daughter of a 3-war veteran. The Major General knows his story. So I respect the uniform. I never disrespected it because when I grew up, I was taught that the uniform was there to protect me. The uniform was there to protect me, not to kill me.
Right, so now I'm right.
I was taught to run for safety. He was a Fort Bliss trainer. He trained young recruits at Fort Bliss when I was a young child. And he taught me self-defense. He taught me all the safety and security because he had 3 daughters. And he wanted his women, his daughters, to be strong women to be able to defend themselves. So he taught me all of the safety measures that the Army teaches their young recruits, that he taught them to me. So I have respect for the uniform. But what I don't respect
What an odd thing to
is
say.
the lack
guys.
of
What
training,
an odd thing to say.
the lack of, and we can't call it sensitivity training anymore, because there's no such thing as sensitivity training. My question, Chief and Major General, is to what extent have the young men and women that will be patrolling the streets, accompanying our law enforcement, to what extent have they received training to prevent what I just described as what our communities are fearing? How can I assure my constituents that they're not going to be targeted as immigrants, that they're not going to be targeted because of the color of their skin, that they're not going to be targeted because of the clothing they wear, that they're not going to be targeted because they're walking the streets at night back from their jobs to their home because they're on the street, that they're not going to be targeted because they happen to be walking home with a group, which is what their families ask them to do. What, can you please ask them?
To the exact standard that the Albuquerque Police Department officers are taught, by the same instructors, with the same program of instruction, with the same scenarios. Identical trainers, all of them. So that's, when we set this mission, and that was critical. If we're gonna interact all of the crisis intervention training by the same doctors who teach for the Albuquerque Police Department, taught the same training. It was imperative that we do that.
So Chief, what have you done to mitigate what we saw, that I just described back in the day before you came on, with the shoot to kill first before you ask questions that was occurring by the police department then? How have we ensured, or how have we stopped that through the training of our officers? Because I still see shooting occurring. Not to maim, but to kill before,
In the last 24 hours.
before the rest is investigated. How can we ensure that?
What I wanted to say is that this meeting is not about police reform. It's not. It's not about.
It's about occupation.
Killing or where there were officers involved. That is not what this meeting is about. So I believe that we should have these conversations, Representative, and that they're very important. What we came here tonight to do, what I was asked to moderate, is what is the National Guard going to do? And that's what we need to discuss tonight.
Hold on, let me say this. I sat through both the chief and the major general describing to the
All
full
people fight
extent
there, they're all domestic
the
terrorists.
uniform, what their roles are, what their tasks are. I sat through all that. I was well informed based on what you presented. That was very clear. I can go back to my community and say, you're gonna wear this uniform, you're not gonna carry weapons, you're not gonna work with ice. I can do that. So Councilman Diaz, that I was informed to that degree. But now we have to bring in the issues that do pertain, they're not disconnected from what we're seeing. Because what the governor has enacted, in my opinion, is that she has enacted a continued attempt to raise crime as the primary impetus in order to address the criminalization of our communities just because we're poor, we don't have housing, we don't have jobs, our youth don't have any hope for the future. They don't have
Ghost,
hope for
that's
the
what policy
summer
comitatus
jobs.
is
So
against.
it's all interrelated.
But these two dumb fucks they don't understand policy
Other
comitatus.
than, how many of you were informed well enough with the descriptions that were provided by the chief and our major general about what the roles are gonna be? Is there still questions? Then I'll sit down. If there's still questions, then I honor the fact that their hands up in the air and their questions. But I do believe that we need to draw in the connections, because if not, our communities will continually be left out of the discussion when we should be sitting at the table from the very beginning.
And that's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's the conversation.
I'm hopeful that those conversations will be scheduled.
Grab it. I already asked my question.
No, the community gets to say what this is for.
So then I'm gonna have a conversation with just you and.
New moderator now, new moderator now.
We can go outside. But what I would like to
Go
know
outside, we
is-
need a new moderator anyway.
Okay, so I want to look at the bigger picture. We all are familiar with mission creep.
True, grab it,
And
yes.
how things can change. Well, my question is really two-part. If decisions are made that, oh, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna arm these guys. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let them make traffic stops. So who is above you and above the governor, who is overseeing this? Is it the Department of Justice? Is it the Department of Defense? Is it both? Who watches the watchmen? Always the biggest threat.
I'll be watching.
So that's my question. Who do you answer to?
You, first and foremost, a couple things. I would like to, I was the chief for 5 years, and I was here to do uniforms, that's Albuquerque Police Department. You have an open invitation, might be a presentation, the average weekend is clear as you walk. I'd love to sit down and explain what we've changed over the past 10 years. I'd love to be able to explain, show videos and show what we've done different. And if you look back, every one of our officers all seen, I've been fully transparent, and released every video and do a press conference on it. As for some of the questions you asked about who's in charge and mission creep, I think we first need to realize there is no legal path to the National Guard taking law enforcement activity.
Exactly.
So it's not worried about.
That's
why we're here.
So the mission creep will not happen. We cannot authorize them to carry firearms. We cannot authorize them to make traffic stops, and we cannot authorize them to, get people in custody. The mayor and the governor ultimately have authority over me as the chief and the general as the general. And they are the ones that will, we do not have mission creep in this operation.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, just to be clear, there is no oversight in this at all from the Department of Justice or the Department of Defense at all? None?
Not from DOJ.
Wow, so that's concerning, that's all that's concerning.
Yay!
So to be clear.
That is a good question.
I got stated about the National Guard. The difference between the National Guard and the rest of the Department of Defense is under Title 32, under State Active Duty, as we sit here, every single one of us, we work for the governor of the state of New Mexico. Not the president, unless we're activated under Title 10. So,
And so was the Ohio National Guard.
Right.
Same circumstance.
That's right.
So if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Ohio, maybe it's too long ago for you, I don't know, but, college students were killed by the National Guard in Ohio when things spiraled out of control, as human nature often dictates will happen. The overarching question that a lot of us have in this, again, is above the governor. So I guess, to me, I guess you've already answered the question. I'm just frustrated by the answer. That the DOJ is not watching this, that the Department of Defense is not watching this. You guys are men in uniforms, right? You are called to war. You are part of the Department of Defense, and everybody's got to answer to somebody, right? And so that's, I think, probably all of our concerns.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Everybody always answers to somebody.
a little bit about logistics, and I want to contextualize this a little bit. How many National Guard officers are there?
Yes, I do. Yes.
No, deployed, for this particular.
today we have 79.
The total 79, where would they be located?
It depends. I don't have the complete breakdown. About 15 or 16 are part of the group that just make sure that they're fed, they show up for work. And then I believe 12 are doing support to the real-time command center. How many are TP? Three. Three, sir. The prisoner transport unit, and the rest will be in field operations.
That's the total number. Do any of them have guns? Why not?
Because we're not authorized to have them.
And what would give you authorization? What would you need to do to get authorization?
A different version of the authority of the governor under a different type of emergency, like the Riot Control Act. Could give that authority. The sheriff declaring a Riot Control Act could give the authority, but it would have to be specifically
Hey,
done.
Crystals.
The rules that we give to
Hey,
our
sir.
National Guardsmen, when they're here, we call it rules for the use of force, are written and reviewed by the Attorney General. And so all of those things would have to change in order for weapons to be issued.
Creole, yes. Creole. Yes, but they'll be doing, but they'll be doing the, Creole, to answer your question, yes, but they'll be doing perimeter stuff, basically the same stuff the police service needs to do, basically holding the freaking perimeter.
The gentleman back here,
Yes.
you know, I talked to the experience that we had in '60s.
Yep, yep, right in Mexico.
You know, so a lot of people don't know about these things.
They are glorified PSAs pretty much.
You know, so it's very involving what we're talking about.
You're welcome, Creole.
So on the one hand, the citizen, we all, just like my personal concern, a lot of people that I work with, you know, do a lot of farming.
Yes, George.
You know, if people are scared to go to work. I have a partner in Washington DC, and part of our work is across the country. He's using the travel.
Well, how you doing?
He has his passport.
Big wolf, right?
And he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting on the plane. He's scared to go downtown and watch ABC because he's certain ice on public transportation. You know, they want door to door. So there's this environment that we're doing. Okay? We have a military zone on the southern border.
West Santiago, police are governing animals.
They are
You can still sue them.
possibly under detention order. You know, I mean, so, you know, there's a piece here that nobody has brought up that you come, has been on the fringe. And one of the answers.
Nobody is above the law. Cops love to think they are, but they're not.
We have potentially, we are a sanctuary city, and we're potentially a sanctuary state. Early on, we stated that we're not going along with that.
That's a horse with red colored wolf. He should have gone to jail.
You know, I feel we're not good for the law enforcement and the relationship of a person who's with us. You know, you're part of our community too. You know, so that like, part of the things is on.
George, here in New Mexico, no police have qualified immunity. That was here in New Mexico. All qualified immunity was banned back in 21.
You know, we have access, your question is, how many people we have, the general is gonna respond, because we have two levels, we have, Troy, then we have two of the yellow, and the large context. When the emergency escalates, you have to respond to the emergency. There's a declaration, presidential declaration, this is what we gotta do in New Mexico. You know, all we're gonna have to respect on your part.
What state is that, Ghost? Arizona? Texas?
Or the orders to bring whatever escalates back into public safety. How do you respond to that?
So, it gets complicated, and I apologize.
Yes, what's
National Guard
Okay.
is unique. We swear two oaths. One to the Constitution of New Mexico, and one to the US Constitution. Like, they're literally two separate oaths. When we're in the status that we're in now, Title 32, we are under the control of the government. I work for no one else, nor does anyone else in uniform that's a member of the National Guard, Army, or Air, work for anyone but the governor. They technically work for me, but, I mean, we work for the government. When we deploy, like truly deploy, I've got 400 guardsmen right now in Fort Bliss, Texas, preparing to go to Africa. They have been federalized by the president under a declaration, under the authority he has, Title 10, to deploy them. They no longer work for me, they no longer answer to the government. You can't be in both. And so, all of these guardsmen that are working under the order and the direction of the governor, under the guidance of the policies of the Albuquerque Police Department, we are following the rules under which we've established an agreement that's dictated by what authority we have from the government. If by chance the president declared an emergency and activated some number of the National Guard, they would be Title 10, no longer work for us, no longer do this mission. And the Albuquerque Police Department, if it happened to be the same 79, would say, our agreement is done, you no longer work under our authority, and they would likely report to whoever it is that the president told them to report to. And it wouldn't be me, because I'm the adjutant general, and I work for the governor, and I'm always in that state. So, if the president chose to activate me personally, someone else would be the adjutant general. And so I think it's incredibly important to understand that. Can it happen? Yes, but we cannot be both at the same time.
I think we need to go on, we only have 5 minutes, we'll have 5 minutes. And I'm gonna ask you, hold on.
Well, I just want to know if this that was your concern. My concern about you is that.
I think we don't know yet what is going to happen with how the federal administration is choosing.
That's what it sounds like, Santiago. That's what it sounds
more
like.
deportations. I can tell you that the governor has tasked me personally, because I'm also a Homeland Security advisor. And no one has had more discussion.
As an Army vet myself, I can tell you no.
About what's happening.
Nobody in the military is trained on constitutional rights. And that's sad. So as an Army veteran myself, I can tell you no, they're
Related
not.
to activating the National Guard to try to figure out how you would do mass deportation and law enforcement under Title 10, because it's a violation of federal law. Thank you.
And I think this is the last question, we have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Two things, I find it interesting, Major General, that you use the language, because language is so important, to describe the National Guard as a community-based organization. But my question is, how many of the National Guardsmen who will be deployed to the streets have been in active duty or have seen, who have been in theaters? Just curious.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look. I mean, you would be surprised after 20 plus years of deployments all over the world, how quickly with our younger soldiers it turns. But I don't have that number off the top of my head. Certainly some have deployed either to Africa or in Iraq or Afghanistan if they've been around a little longer. The vast majority are younger. And so, but I mean, if you wanted me to calculate the number, I could, I don't know, off the top of my head.
Yes.
Hi, so I'm a doctoral recipient and I'm also a PhD candidate at UNM. And my question is for the Major General of the National Guard. Earlier you stated that crime starts at the south of the border and it is on our unhoused population. And if you're starting with this ideology that the leading efforts of criminalization is immigrants like me, who are more vulnerable actually once we're in the United States, how, I want you to understand that this is going to affect the way that you and the people that are working under you are going to carry out their duties. So, our study in 2017 shows that cities with higher rates of immigrants are actually less likely to commit crime. So my question is, how are you planning to lead in this community? How are you planning to earn trust with a community if you don't understand how to be them?
So my point, and maybe I didn't make it as clearly as I should have, was that there are cartels, transnational drug trafficking organizations, who are sending narcotics and humans as a form of profit.
That's the lefty.
More complex issues.
That's the lefty bullshit.
my point was that
Instead of clapping, they do that
that
snap
is a,
shit.
that is
Fucking lefty bullshit.
a factor, in taking our youth and enticing them into that way of life. And migrant or not migrant, like that's not, that wasn't the intent. But that was my point, is that there's still a criminal element that we have to deal with. Because at the end of the day, I don't know what the price is today, for whatever's been happening, for the last 2 months along the border, the price of some of the narcotics on the street remain relatively unchanged. And
They've gone up
if we start to make
significantly.
an effect on that supply, that's a problem that we should also address. And it doesn't invalidate all of the other things that people have said also should be addressed and resourced. And I have to, my governor's not here, and so I will say that in this last session, and I think you probably voted for it, there was like $110 million that was appropriated specifically for affordable housing to start to deal with that issue as well.
Thank you, and, we don't have any more time.
Can I use my
That's
follow-up?
very-
Yeah, she has a follow-up.
Representative,
She has a follow-up. She has a follow-up. I'm sorry.
Attempted
moderation.
If there's a follow-up, I'll wait.
Thank you. Sir, so I'm also an immigrant rights organizer that works and lives on Central, so I get to see the effects of both the abuse of, well, unfortunately, the organizations that you are coming into our community with. And I want you to understand that you don't have to carry a weapon sometimes in order to be used as a weapon. You're going to be making and building narratives about our community. And unfortunately, you're already kind of humbling it. So I want you to understand that the narratives that you're creating and telling me about my community is going to affect us. And it's going to affect how you and others treat us. So I hope that you are mindful about that.
Can I just say, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you about other ways that we can help affect the community. Absolutely.
Cartels and drugs are real.
I just wanted to
make a very brief remark.
Yeah, I just wanted to inform you that the community, if the community feels unsafe, if the community feels in any way that they need some sort of intervention, there is always the Office of Civil Rights, and describe fully the situation, and they will work through their system under friendly terms. I don't know how this Trump administration will act, but there is that,
They just let this
I'm
department off the hook.
assuming that there may be a wall there, but the same right is afforded with the Attorney General of our state. So if there is a general sense of insecurity or not feeling safe, there are ways in which to ask for observation, interventions, and I'm sure you as community organizers are aware of that. So I just wanted to bring that up. One final question. They may not have an answer to this question yet, but my question has to do with what the plan is to de-escalate a situation should you find yourselves on the street, say with a peaceful demonstration, and you're wearing the uniform, you're called because there's a potential threat being reported. How do you plan to de-escalate without calling in the riot folks that this gentleman was talking about that were called in to Penn State in 1970? So that killed it was a momentary thing. Many of you may have not lived through that, but I lived through it. So, and I was a student activist, a proud student activist at the time. So anyway, if you don't have an answer to it, that's an important question that I think has to be answered to all of us. I want to take that back to my communities because that's one of the things they fear. Are my First Amendment rights, my right to assemble, my right to protest, my right of speech, my right of all my constitutional rights, where do they go?
APD hates rights.
When we're protesting or we're gathering, and it's perceived to be a threat.
What I can say, Representative, is this. The guardsmen that are assigned to the area commanders, field operations, will work for the area commander, will take the guidance in the positions that they're asked to take. With the limited number that are there, like I said, maybe 1 or 2, potentially 6 if we bring all the ones together, because it's a large scene. The National Guard will not ever be in tactical control of anything in the city. That is the Albuquerque Police Department. We are merely there to assist so that they've got more officers that are free to hold calls. And in every situation.
Oh, I know, Tober, I know.
You should not see a scene that the guard is on the perimeter of, that doesn't have other APD officers there. And so if it's an isolated issue, one of the things that we will tell our guardsmen very quickly is.
You mean unconstitutional?
There needs to be a
Correct.
police officer, they'll have a radio. There needs to be a police officer here now to handle whatever's starting, so that we can take the role that which we're intending to do, which is merely have seat security.
Peter, and I just want to close with one real brief statement. 2 weeks ago, I traveled to Washington, D.C. as President of the United States. The fact for our independence to be free of policies from Washington, D.C. in terms of the enforcement of immigration laws. I just remind individuals who talk about the Department of Justice overseeing us right now, with this administration. Remember, this Department of Justice, both the Civil Rights Division and the Criminal Division, are the United States and
Yes, I think we all understand that.
Yeah, that's the
Things
problem.
change and rules are established, ways of doing things are established, and this is a question that can be asked now, a year earlier, 5 years from now. We all understand that Trump is an asshole. But somebody still needs to oversee the overseers, and, you know. and
These
look,
idiots are fucking TDS.
I don't even know you, I don't even know anything about it, right? No ill will, no hard feelings. You're doing your job. We're doing our jobs. This is all part of a civil society and the way it works. This is a public forum in which we can all voice our opinion. Nothing against you, man. Please don't be
No,
offensive.
Toker, no.
It's a natural question. If you would
I
have,
bet it's
if
coming.
somebody
Not
who's
yet.
watching your children, right, who regulates them? Same thing.
I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
You know, obviously, we have still lots to discuss as a community. I'm up for tonight.
So when's the next one?
I'm
I
not
don't want them
sure.
drunk, I don't want them doing drugs.
Excuse me.
It makes that. And
So we're in the meeting now.
so, Garcia.
Okay, so this is the end of it. So this is the end of this. I'm not in California
So
either.
we also heard an acknowledgement tonight that there is not an emergency. The chief had fully acknowledged, write this down, and they made up an emergency to create this situation. So what legal remedies can we have to any lawyers in the room? We have a tort notice already written. We just need legal representation to file because we know this is fake, a fake emergency, and the governor illegally activated the guard into this role. So if anybody has a lawyer, a movement lawyer, who's interested in representing the community, please let us know. We're millions for prisoners, building power for Black to Mexico, saving kids from incarceration. Albuquerque CopWatch. Please get at us. No movement lawyers. Please let us know.
Right. Well, this is the end of the. This is the end of. This is the end of this. So. This is the end of this. And if you like my content, please hit that subscribe. Also, while you're at it, please hit that like. I'm still trying to grow this channel, so please hit that subscribe. Hopefully I will see everybody on the next one. Catch you guys later. Yes, blind man, yes. Please hit that subscribe if you like this type of content. Hit that like, and I'll see everybody in the next one.
Grab that gun from APD. It's gonna happen.
They murdered